I would say to not be discouraged by being the only one there. I think that to get women into a space like that, you need women to be the first ones. So, at our school, we actually have a lot more women on our team than, yeah, really other schools might. So, yeah, the girls who are going into college and thinking about joining SAE at a school that, is smaller, might not have as many women as our team does, to still do it because your presence will be noticed by people the next year and it'll just make it that much more comfortable to see another girl on the team. So I think that would be my advice.
Hi, I'm Emma Zareen, your host and a 16-year-old engineering student, policy enthusiast, and hopeful future STEM school survivor. Welcome to She Persists. Before we dive in, I just want to take a second to say how grateful I am for each of you. Every listen and every bit of support genuinely means the world to me. When I started She Persists, it started as a little dream to share real stories of young girls in STEM who are challenging norms, finding their place, and inspiring change. Seeing that idea come to life has been so rewarding, and honestly, it's just the beginning. If you've been enjoying these conversations, I'd love for you to be a part of our community by following this podcast. It's one of the best ways to help us grow, share even more incredible stories, and connect with a wider audience. And I hope the conversation doesn't end here. I hope you carry these stories with you and let them be a constant reminder that your voice truly makes a difference. Today's episode features 4 members of the Formula Buckeyes team at The Ohio State University. Each of them works on a different part of the car, from electronics and chassis to brakes, ergonomics, and media. And together, they're helping design and build an electric Formula SAE race car. Joining me today are Haley Kruger, one of the team's electronics leads who focuses on designing and manufacturing PCB boards used throughout the car's electrical systems and battery pack. We also have Gabby Anderson, a member of the chassis team who works with carbon fiber composites and contributes to building structural components. I'm also joined by Jordan Pelland, who works on brakes and ergonomics, helping design systems that connect the driver to the car and determine things like driver position, braking, and control. And finally, Michaela Pindrow, the team's media lead who manages the team's communications, social media, branding, and outreach. So with that, let's get into it. Here are the girls of Formula Buckeyes. Haley, Gabby, Jordan, and Michaela, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to She Persists. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to really get started with the basics. For someone who's never heard of Formula SAE or Formula Buckeyes, how would you describe what you do to them?
I'd say we are a team of undergraduate students who design, build, and compete Formula-style race cars. In terms of what I do, I help the team tell our stories, our outreach, our communication, our marketing, and media is all through me. So I tell our story through photography, social media, digital marketing, to kind of help the team stay professional and on brand for years to come.
That's really cool because I've heard of Formula Buckeyes and Formula SAE briefly before this, but I'm really interested to learn more in detail about what you guys do. So what originally inspired each of you guys to join for Formula Buckeyes? Was it an organization that you went into college knowing you wanted to join or something that you kind of stumbled into later on?
Okay, I was gonna say, coming to OSU, I always knew that I wanted to join a club, but I just didn't know for sure which one to do. There's so many offered here. But it was actually when Colin, one of our former presidents, came into one of my classes and he pitched Formula Buckeyes and just talked about the team. And then that's just ultimately what got me into going for the first time. And yeah, that's how I got into it originally.
Awesome.
For me, I want to work in F1. So when I was applying to colleges and stuff, I kind of kept that in mind, and it definitely was an added bonus that OSU's F1 team is so good. But yeah, that's really how I got into it. I knew about it coming in. I knew that it was really good. And then when I joined, I loved it, and I was like, this is where I want to be. So.
Amazing. So kind of adding on to that, you mentioned that you've always been interested in F1. How did you kind of find that interest in high school?
So my dad and my brother really got me into it. My dad and I watched a lot of niche sports together, so he introduced me to it, and I just ended up really liking it. And then when I was thinking about a career, I was like, why not? I could so do that. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
For me, my cousin, he went to the University of Michigan and was on their formula team there. This was in like 2011, so I was really young. And I remember going to competitions at Michigan International Speedway. So I think I was like 5 or 6 at the time. I didn't really know what was going on, but it was always something just on my radar and I knew it existed. So when I was, a junior in high school and thinking about what I wanted to do, I'd gotten really, really interested in motorsport and knew that I wanted to go into engineering. So, when talking to my family, they recommended looking at schools that have Formula SAE teams, and I ended up only looking at schools and only applying to schools with successful SAE teams.
Wow,
And yeah, I just happened to go to the school that had the best one. Yeah.
that's awesome.
I was truthfully just looking for an interest club. I started watching Drive to Survive and getting into motorsports probably less than a year before coming to Ohio State. So truly just looking for an interest club, looked up Formula Ohio State in the search bar and Formula Buckeyes came up and did a full deep dive on Formula SAE and became obsessed to the point where I wasn't even at Ohio State yet and I drove up every Wednesday to attend
Oh my
meetings because I
gosh.
loved it so much.
That's awesome. Well, that's super cool that you guys all either found a new interest or had an interest that you were able to pursue in college through the club. And now you're on one of the most successful teams in the country. So congratulations on that. What's one of the most unexpected skills that you learned on this team that has nothing to do with engineering or motorsports or cars?
For me, it definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. I am from Michigan, so I don't really know anybody who went to this school from my town or really, yeah, my school or my entire city. Nobody came here. So, and I always went to really small elementary schools, high schools, and middle schools. So this is a big school, a school where I don't know anybody. So it was really, really out of my comfort zone to join a club where I knew nobody and I didn't really know much about any of what we do. It was really just jumping into the deep end. So, yeah, I think I actually started college in 2023 and I didn't join the team until 2024. It actually took me an entire year to like work up the courage to join because I was just so scared. So, yeah, joining this team, it's now a place where it's like I have friends and I feel really comfortable and it's somewhere that I like to be. And it showed me that I'm capable of going to spaces where I don't know anybody and I don't know anything. And instead of thinking it as a bad thing and it like makes me scared, I can think about it as an opportunity to meet new people and learn new things. So that was a really big learning lesson for me. And actually, I think it like changed who I am. I really am more confident in myself now after joining this team.
Yeah, I think oftentimes we find like our new passions and everything from things that are outside of our comfort zone and places that we didn't initially like think we wanted to pursue. So I think that's really awesome that you were able to find that space by stepping out of your comfort zone.
adding on to that, like I would say that that is something that I've learned is to like not be embarrassed when I don't know things because I'm surrounded by people that know a lot of things. And it was always like growing up, everybody you don't want to be like, oh, I don't know what that is, and feel like embarrassed because you don't really know what something is. But I would say that it's really helped me to just be on a team. Like I went in with pretty much no knowledge because I came from a high school that didn't really have any engineering classes or like anything car related. So it like gave me a space to kind of be like, I don't know what that is. Can you teach me? Like, can you
Yeah.
explain it to me without being like feeling like I need to know everything?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I feel like there's always like a stigma behind not knowing something and like asking for help or asking someone to teach you something. So I think being in spaces where you're kind of forced to do that and forced to learn new things constantly, it really helps everyone grow. So what does each of your day-to-day look like in your specific sub-teams?
I would say for the electronic sub team, it's honestly different every single day, but uh for Wednesdays, like I'll just go off of that day since that's our general day where the whole team comes in on Wednesday. But basically, I end class around 5 on Wednesday and I go straight to the shop after. I walk to the garage where my car is And then we have leads at 6, which is where our leadership team, we have a meeting every week just to go over, just to update each other, tell each other what we've been doing. And then we have general at 7 with the whole team. That ends around 7:30. And then after that, the members go to each sub team. So then we take each member and do what we have planned for that day. And then members normally leave at around 9. So that's like a typical Wednesday. Yeah, for electronics, we normally meet on Wednesday and Thursdays.
Each sub team kind of has their own weekly schedule.
Oh, okay.
A lot of teams meet on Wednesday and an additional day during the week, but Wednesday is where we all get together and kind of update each other and learn about what each subsystem is doing.
Nice, nice. So now that we kind of have a sense of like the bigger picture, I want to learn a little bit more about each of your roles specifically. And we can start with you, Haley, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
But can you tell me a little bit more about what you do as the electronic lead and how you kind of progressed into this leadership role?
Yeah, so as of right now, I'm doing a lot of printed circuit board manufacturing, also known as PCBs. And these are located inside our battery pack, a few on the outside. And I actually have to manufacture like about 40 of these like little boards. They're like that big. So I've been doing a lot of that these past few months. And then also I've been teaching members how to also manufacture these boards so they can help me out. And I can hit my deadlines.
Yeah, awesome.
I feel like I got into this role. I honestly just showed up a lot my freshman year. I just came in like every Wednesday and Thursday when our team had meetings, and I actually got the opportunity to work on kind of a bigger electronics project. So I would come in an extra day on top of the other 2 days. And so I think I just ended up putting a lot of time into the shop, and that didn't go unnoticed. And so that's kind of what led me into being into the leadership team, I would say.
Amazing. So you went from an electronics member to high voltage and low voltage electronics lead in less than a year. So what was that transition kind of like for you, and what made you ready to take on like these high voltage, low voltage systems?
Yeah, if I'm gonna be honest, honestly, the transition, it was a little rocky at the start. I originally didn't think I would be a good fit for this role just because I had only been on the team for a year, like you said, and I felt that I didn't know a lot about the car. I felt like I didn't know enough to teach people, and I'm still learning a lot today. I felt like I couldn't give up this opportunity, you know?
Yeah.
Like it was given to me, I had to take it, even if it was going to be more of a challenge. Once I found out, I made it a goal to myself to learn more about high and low voltage systems. And I also had an amazing support team, my other electronics leads, who were able to teach me more and just help me along the way. And they're helping me now also.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think what you said, like, it's always so important to just say yes to every opportunity.
Yeah.
Because, you never know where that's going to end up leading you later on, too. So,
Yeah.
Congratulations on being electronics lead. That's super cool.
Thank you.
So, you're teaching a lot of new members about electronic systems. What's the biggest misconception or something that they thought coming into the team when they first joined that wasn't necessarily true?
I would say that a lot of new members join the club thinking it's mainly a manufacturing or a building club where you just build the car, when in reality, there's actually a lot of research and design that goes into the car, not only for the present year, but also for future years. Like, we're always trying to plan early and just research. So we kind of expose them to that idea of a lot of research and design by giving our members kind of research projects like the first few weeks/months before we actually start manufacturing. Because we honestly don't start manufacturing until a little bit later in the year anyway. So it's nice to just, like I said, expose them to research while we're waiting to actually manufacture stuff.
Yeah, so what does that timeline kind of look like? Like, when does your season start versus like when is your first competition typically?
I like to say we're like a year-round club. I
Okay.
feel like there's never really a time where we have a break other than maybe right after competition. But like I said, we're always trying to research for the following years. But I would say, at least for electronics, our manufacturing time starts like November-ish. Yeah. And then all of spring semester, we also just manufacture a lot.
Nice. So, can you walk us through a little bit about how the board actually works and what it does in your Formula SAE car? Like for viewers who aren't necessarily engineers, can you break it down in like a simple way?
Yeah, I would say in general, each board has a different purpose, but mainly for our car, our boards are more for sensing purposes. So it gathers a lot of data from different sensors that we have on our car. And then especially for our battery pack, we like to use them in smaller spaces since it's hard to have wires in there. So we use like little boards instead.
Nice. So I think people often underestimate like how important the electronics are that go into these cars. Like it's not just the engine and then the four motors and wheels. So there's so much behind the scenes. But Gabby, so can we talk a little bit about your work on the chassis sub team?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you joined Formula Buckeyes as a sophomore in 2024. Did you have prior experience working with composite materials or chassis construction?
I had no prior experience. Yeah, I knew what carbon fiber was. You see it on a lot of race cars. I mean, I watched F1, so I knew it from there. I really didn't know anything about what the process was to fabricate with composite materials.
So what was it like jumping straight into working with, carbon fiber and other composites that you didn't have prior experience with?
Yeah, so when I first joined, like Haley said, with the electronics team, we don't start manufacturing until maybe the end of first semester, start of second semester, now in the spring. So when I first started, I had a member project and I was working with one other student and we were looking at material testing data from the year before. And that allowed me, it kind of introduced me to why we set up the chassis the way we do, why we orient the carbon the way we do, and just the whole process. Um, and that helped. And then we actually started doing material testing. That's what we're doing now. You're doing the same thing that you would do on the chassis, but it's just test sections. There may be like 1.5 by 1.5 feet. So doing the more smaller things, we kind of eased our way up to actually doing the full chassis. And so it was like scary and I was learning a lot, but I didn't just jump into, building the chassis. There's a lot of learning and lead up to get to that point.
So you guys are developing a new carbon fiber headrest right now. Where did that idea come from and what challenges are unique to that component compared to other parts of like chassis work?
Yeah, so this is actually my member project for this year. It is my first design project and also my first project that I'm working on by myself. I don't know a whole bunch about what our headrest looked like last year, besides that it was manufactured in a way that, like, it did not need that much work for what it was. It was made out of some kind of metal. I want to say maybe aluminum. And there was welding involved. It was welded to the actual car. And it was just too much work. So we wanted to find a way to manufacture it to save time. That's where the carbon fiber came in. It is strong enough to withstand the forces that it needs to. There's a whole little section in the rule book about the headrest. And yeah, it's just easier to manufacture. It can do the same things, and it's also lighter than having a whole bunch of metal on the car, which, I'm not sure how much of a difference it will make in the end in terms of speed, but it's always good to cut down on the weight of the car where we can.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is like something that has nothing to do with, engineering really, but so I'm going to manufacture the headrest out of carbon fiber. And then we need to Velcro a very specific foam onto the back of it for the actual like rest part. And I am also responsible for making a cover for that foam. And in high school, I actually loved to sew. So this gives me an opportunity to sew a little cushion cover. And yeah, I can tap into my creativity a little bit. So I'm really excited to do that as well as, start playing around with design.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so cool. I think it's always awesome to be able to connect, different interests and different ideas together, especially since you're focused on engineering for like a career. So it's cool that you can connect other interests into that as well. But you mentioned that this is your member project. So do all members do like a project every single year for the team, or how does that work?
It kind of depends on the team. A lot of the projects, at least on the chassis sub team, are chosen and geared around learning. So, like my first project last year was interpreting data from the year before. That just introduced me to not only data analysis, but the structural integrity of our chassis. Yeah, this is like a small design project and it's introducing me to this process and hopefully something that I can do more of in the future. So I think, yeah, the design projects are the learning phase for the newer members.
Awesome. So, focusing on something a little bit more technical, can you break down the difference between wet layup and pre-preg methods and when you would use one over the other?
Yeah. So, I learned this when I first joined the team, but I did not realize that carbon, just dry carbon, is like a fabric. It's microfiber and it's a whole bunch of microfiber carbon threads that are woven together in kind of a lattice. Um, so a wet layup is when you use that dry carbon and to actually make it one solid piece, one, solid piece of material, you need to use an epoxy resin and embed it into the wet carbon. So we do that using squeegees. We just really squeegee it in layer by layer. The difference between that and pre-preg is it's kind of in the name. The resin is already pre-impregnated into the dry carbon. And it comes to you in a roll already, set up, and it actually has to stay in the freezer so that the resin doesn't go through like the heat transfer process and cure. So we keep it in the freezer and when you're actually doing the layup, the pre-preg carbon is a lot easier to work with. Cutting out dry carbon is kind of messy. It frays. You can get little micro splinters. So when we're doing things that need to be more precise, we'll always be using pre-preg. So I actually learned this past week, which is really funny that this question is in here. But like in industry, wet layups are mainly only used for molds. So when we do our wet layup, we use it for a mold. We'll do a wet layup on this huge like plug. It's kind of a negative of our chassis. We'll lay up on there. It doesn't have to be super, super precise or accurate since it's just the mold. And then afterwards, we will use pre-preg to make the chassis because we need very specific pieces. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know that, so I learned something new. But what would you say has been like the biggest learning curve joining a team or like a sub team that you didn't really know much about from the start?
Um Definitely working with different types of people. Um, I think I'm gonna be working in a team for like the rest of my life, which I really like to do. But I've learned that, people have different communication styles and they handle different situations differently. Like, some people are really calm under pressure and some people will, not, I don't want to say freak out, but yeah, it's just learning how to work with different people. It's a really good skill to have. And I think it's a good way to get to know people. We spend a lot of time together, but knowing how they respond best to different communication styles was a really, really good skill to have. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something that I've learned and something that is really vital to working in a team environment like this.
Yeah, I think especially because, like you said, you're going to be working in a team almost your whole life. So just being able to like adapt to new situations and new environments and new people is always super important, especially in engineering. So, yeah. So, Jordan, I know you're dealing with precision in kind of a different way with brakes and ergonomics. You're involved in both brake rotor design and ergonomics. How do these two subsystems kind of work together? And does driver comfort really impact braking performance?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what we do on brakes and ergonomics has like a really big connection to everything outside. Like, we are one of the sub teams that really connects with the most other sub teams. Like, we're working with electronics with the PCBs, because we're making boxes that go on the back of the steering wheel that hold it, which is something I just did most recently, actually. Within our sub team, I'd say that brakes and ergonomics really do go hand in hand because there's a lot of things that impact it, like the pedal design. If the driver isn't really comfortable or if they can't like really find their footing, or like if something's off in the car, like performance is going to go down. You're not really going to do as well. But yeah, so I'd say that ergonomics really does play a really important role in terms of performance. And then obviously you want good brakes.
Yeah, awesome. So you guys are now working on the seat. So what makes a good Formula SAE seat, and how is that different from what you might find in like a street car?
Um, so our seat is made out of carbon fiber, or it will be. How we do it is this year we did it in the ergo rig, but in previous years we've done it like in the chassis. We put this like expanding foam in there, and then we have the driver sit in the expanding foam so that it can create like basically a mold of their back and make the seat most accurate. And then we talk with the drivers and we're like, how would you like this to be changed? Like, what about this seat would you like to be different? And then we do that. And then we take the expanding foam and we sand it and we paint it and get it ready for a layup. Then we do the layup and then we'll have the seat. But yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. So can you tell me a little bit more about the ergo rig and how that kind of works?
I love the ergo rig. It was one of the very first things I did after the brakes and stuff. It was my first like actual ergonomic project. And it's basically just this mock-up of the car with all of the independent like things that you can change and customize. So the angle of the seat, the length between where the gear, like the pedals are going to be to the driver, how far the steering wheel is from you. This year it was one of my first like assignments, I guess, was to figure out a way to put the seat belts and like the harnesses into the ergo rig because we hadn't done that in previous years. And I had to read the rules. There were a lot of them, but yeah, so it's basically just a way to figure out the best possible angle for everybody before we kind of like set that in stone with the seat and with the chassis.
Okay. So is it like a mock-up kind of, or?
Yeah, so it's just made out of wood and it's like a box of wood and it's got plyboard or just like plyboard for the seat. And we put a few different like metal rods in it with different holes. That way we can like actually change whatever we need to change. So the seat angle, distance of the steering wheel, like we have like a little plug up top and it's just like drilled holes and we used a pencil at first. Just whatever to hold it. Yeah. The ergo rig is super important. Especially this year because we did the layup inside of the ergo rig. So yeah.
Cool. So is the ergo rig something that you guys like fabricate every single year, or do you guys use the same one like repeatedly?
To my knowledge, we make a new one every year. Yeah, I think every year we try and make it a little better, in terms of how we go about making each thing customizable, um, to see if we can like make it more efficient and make it more precise in terms of like where to place things, like especially with the distance of the pedals to the driver and especially when it comes to the angle of the seat, like we want it to be really precise, obviously. So I think every year as new members come into like brakes and ergonomics, we make a new one and we try and like make it better than last year's.
Awesome. So did you have prior experience from high school in this kind of like fabrication or carpentry kind of work?
Not at all. It was actually my first time using power tools. I learned a lot. Yeah, it was definitely a little intimidating at first because, like, I remember coming in on one of, like, the first days, and my lead, Jack, he just, like, handed me a drill and was like, "Okay, have fun." And I was like, "Wait, what am I doing? I don't know how to use this." Yeah, and, like, I learned a lot of things that I didn't realize I didn't know, like a 2x4. Little embarrassment, I actually didn't know what that was. Like, I had a brief idea, but yeah, so I learned a lot of things.
That's awesome. I think it's really cool that you got to work on like a new sub team that you hadn't had prior experience with, and just learn a bunch of new skills that are definitely going to help in the future. So yeah, that's awesome. And that's really interesting. I didn't know how much ergonomics and brakes like kind of tied together into the car. Michaela, you're on a very different side of the operation, but so important. You've grown the Formula Buckeyes social media to over 4,500 followers with more than 150,000 monthly views. What is your main content strategy, and how do you make the content that you produce exciting for people who are just, scrolling on their phones?
Yeah, I think my content strategy revolves around having what I call content buckets. So this is having a variety of different types of content to kind of hit each of our target audiences. For example, we're doing a Meet the Lead series currently where we highlight each of our leadership members. We have explainer videos that we've been starting. We do aesthetic photos in the shop. We hit on sponsor posts. So having and keeping that variety and making sure that you're hitting each of your targets, audiences, from members to sponsors to even new members, I think is my content strategy, what I find most important.
Awesome. So have you done anything previously with like social media marketing and stuff like that?
I actually started my own cookie business in high school.
Oh,
So
awesome.
kind of got a taste of all sorts of aspects of business and truly fell in love with the marketing side of things and kind of building my brand from the ground up.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you're translating engineering and very technical work into compelling visual stories. What's been the hardest and the most enjoyable part of that?
I think you said it right there. I think it's translating. It's almost like trying to understand two different languages at times, understanding the engineering behind things and understanding the content world. I think for me, I didn't have much experience in engineering, nor did I, or still know all that much. So kind of being in the shop, being able to ask questions and truly understand what each sub team does, what each of these female leads and members do here is the most important thing to that storytelling, but also the most challenging part of content.
So if there was one thing that you wish was translated better or that the engineering teams understood more about content, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think just how important it is. I think we've started to make that more clear and have had members that are more willing to kind of put in the work for social media because it's not something that's, required on the car. Obviously, brakes, ergo, electronics are all things that are truly vital in making sure that the car runs. But I think the content side of thing is something that people don't see all the time, especially because it's not something physical or tangible, but it is truly something that's important because it's how we get sponsors. It's how we get money to fund our car. So I think that little part, but I think it's also on the media team to understand that world as well.
Yeah. So you track and analyze KPIs to optimize content strategy using trend analysis and algorithm insights. Can you kind of break that down and how that actually works for a growing Formula SA team's social media?
Yeah. I think it's a lot of fancy words to describe looking at graphs and scrolling TikTok a lot. Um, but it really is kind of looking behind the scenes of our posts. So looking at who is viewing these posts, what is the age range for our target audience that we're hitting, what do our impressions, our engagement look like, and then understanding how to take that into the future. So we just did an incredible post series that one of my members, Allison, did, where we highlighted each of these members and a few more for National Girls and Women's in Sports Day. And that post did incredible. It had incredible impressions and engagement, but kind of taking it one step further to see why did it do good? Was it because it was a trending holiday? Or was it because people like seeing the faces behind the car? So, and then trying to translate that into how can we do that again? So with this Meet the Lead series, that's kind of taking it a step further. How can we maybe highlight sub-teams further and further showcase the team behind the dream?
Yeah, I think there's so much behind social media strategy and like content creation that is very overlooked and like we don't always see it at first sight, but I think it's so incredibly important. So, what would you say has been like the biggest piece of success that you found from this social media? Like what has it really helped you guys accomplish as a team?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think we've really seen it in terms of gaining new members and especially female members, importantly, kind of being able to be more active on social media definitely helps. We've seen way more members and more participation than we've ever seen in years. I guess being active and that's really helped our social team grow and our team physically grow.
Amazing. So, you also do freelance sports photography for Formula Buckeyes and the Ohio State Club football. What makes good motorsports photography different from other sports?
I think photography as a whole is all about storytelling, being able to capture the emotion, the excitement, the determination. But I think what makes motorsports different is it's a helmet on sport. You don't see their faces for 90% of their time participating in the sport. So being able to kind of capture that raw emotion in different ways. And with our team, especially, it's a team sport. There's no one driver that we're highlighting all the time. So being able to capture the teamwork that goes behind the scenes, being able to kind of point out and highlight specific members, I think is what makes it a little bit different.
Awesome. So, how do you accomplish that, like capturing the emotions and stuff on this helmet on sport?
I think I try to be stealthy in the shop, like capturing kind of just raw emotions and what's happening in the garage and in the shop. But I guess kind of making a little bit of a presence and having that understanding of engineering and of the team as a whole is vitally important to be able to be like, okay, here's what they're doing today. I need to make sure that I go capture that. Or being on the sidelines and kind of being behind the scenes and getting to see that emotion and capture it through the lens.
Yeah, I think there's just so much about photography that, it just so much goes into it and being able to like capture a moment and making it like shine as that individual moment, especially in such a big sport like Formula SAE where there's just so much going on constantly. And just being able to like get that one moment is super special. So
Absolutely.
I want to shift gears a little bit here and talk about something important like being a woman on this team. Formula SAE is still a pretty male dominated space. How has that experience been for you guys? And have you noticed things starting to change?
Uh, Definitely. So I'm actually the only girl on my sub team, which is fine. It's nothing new. I feel like I went into a very male dominated field, so I wasn't really expecting anything different, but I definitely say that like we need more women, but yeah, I would say that it's definitely changed and there's a lot more girls than there would have been like 10 years ago. And I think that like especially at OSU, like they do a really good job of treating us equal, I will say. At least on my sub team, like I feel like my opinions are really valued and respected and I feel like when I bring something up it's actually heard. Has been a really good experience for me so far.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really great to hear. It's so important to just, be able to work on a team environment, especially when you are the only woman and still, feel like respected and feel like you're still an equal part of the team. Just because you're like the only girl on the team doesn't mean any less. So, yeah, I think that's awesome that you're able to find that environment there.
Yeah, so for me, when I joined, I was also the only girl on my team last year. And, um, I mean, it was really hard. I mean, I am already pretty shy, um, and have a tendency to kind of be kind of quiet. So, yeah, learning to voice my opinions and be heard was definitely something that I learned. But I remember talking to my dad one week when I think I was just having a hard time, and he told me that as a woman, I'm gonna like face some environments like this for the rest of my career. I mean, choosing an engineering major, you're already gonna be a minority, but working in the automotive industry and even more so in the motorsport industry, I think there's gonna be a lot of times where I am gonna be the only woman in a space or look around and be like, okay, I am definitely not like everybody else here. So I think learning to be uncomfortable. To be comfortable being uncomfortable is really, really important because I'm going to face other situations like this all my life. And to push through that and to kind of make myself be heard and to have the confidence to make myself be heard is really, really important and something that I've learned. I am really excited this year because the chassis sub team, I think, has like 4 or 5 other girls besides me. Yeah,
That's
and at the
awesome.
beginning of the year, it was actually we were the majority. So I think that is like a really unique thing and definitely a big change. And it makes me really excited to see other girls join the team.
Yeah, I think we're definitely growing towards a time period now where a lot of girls are getting more comfortable like going into these male dominated spaces. So I think that's just really beautiful to see that like people are joining these teams and they're finding like a community here. So yeah, that's awesome. And I really
Yeah.
like what you said about being comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's applies to everything really in life. Because there will always be times where you face something that's not necessarily in your comfort zone or something that you're prepared for, and just being able to kind of navigate that and find, like what you said, comfort in being uncomfortable is definitely super important. Yeah, Haley, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to add on that I've seen change a lot from previous years and last year is more females are staying on the team for longer too. I've noticed that a lot. So that's been something that I've noticed.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you bring that up because I think one of the biggest things about like having women in STEM is the retention rate is pretty low. So even, when they join like one of these engineering or STEM fields, a lot of women don't tend to stay in the space. But over the past couple of years, retention rate in general for STEM has been going up, which I think is really, really cool. And it's nice to see that more people are staying in fields that they're passionate and interested in and not being discouraged by the fact that they're, one of the only women in the field. So yeah, that's a great point. So shifting gears, I'd love to hear a little bit more about like the technical aspects and challenges that you guys have encountered along the way. So Haley, what has been one of the most catastrophic failures that you've encountered on the electronics team and how did you troubleshoot it?
I feel like personally, I haven't had anything too catastrophic, but at least this year, one thing that I ran into was one of our boards that I had completed. We went to go test it to make sure it worked, and it didn't end up working. And me and another electronic lead had to find out what's wrong, we had to troubleshoot it. We used multimeters, asked the person that designed it for help, and it was more frustrating, if anything, because I had worked on this board for like 2 weeks and
Yeah.
now we can't even use it. But it was definitely a good learning experience on what to do differently when designing a board, what not to do, what to look out for so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. So for PCB boards, is that kind of like a one and done situation or is it something that you can iterate on? Like if something does go wrong, is it something that's necessarily like fixable on that one board or do you kind of have to scratch that and start fresh?
Yeah, you have to scratch it,
Okay.
basically. Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. So to Gabby, what's your kind of quality control process for carbon fiber and how do you guys ensure structural integrity in terms of the chassis and other components that you work on?
Yeah, so in terms of structural integrity, this before we actually build the main chassis, we need to do a whole bunch of testing. All the teams have to fill out this gigantic spreadsheet. It's called SES, and you have to input screenshots from your CAD. You have to input, data points from the material testing that we do. You need to even go all the way down to how many layers of carbon fiber you're going to put on either side of your core and in what orientation are they going to be in. So you do all of that, and then the spreadsheet will tell you if your car is legal or not. And sometimes it takes a couple tries to get to that, to actually pass. You submit it and they'll send it back, and you'll do that a few times. So, yeah, to ensure that structural integrity, we make a whole bunch of the little testing layups. They're about a foot and a half by foot and a half. And then we take it to another facility that's right off campus where we are able to do hydraulic testing. And what we just did, I think on Thursday, was we tested the seatbelt hard points. So basically, you make a little section of what the chassis would be, just in a little section, and you embed the hard points into it. And you go and you basically connect the seatbelt and you pull on it with this hydraulic machine until it breaks. And it'll fail in different ways, but yeah, and then you take that data and you input it into this giant spreadsheet and it'll tell you whether or not this is legal. And then you do that with different setups and you can figure out if it's the most efficient. And then quality control, it's definitely all in the prep. So while carbon fiber is, it's the preferred material because of its strength to weight ratio, it also is a little bit like it has some aesthetic components to it. If you do your layup wrong and it's not shiny and not completely smooth, it's just not going to look right. So when we prep different components, we have this buck, which is manufactured out of tooling board, and then we lay up on it to make the mold. The inside of the mold ends up being the outside of the chassis, if that makes sense. So we need that inside of the mold and the surface of our kind of negative to be as smooth as we can get it. So it's nice, smooth finish. There's no pinholes, which is where the resin can kind of sink between two weaves. You'll just get this texture. So yeah, ensuring really, really good prep by sanding things, and then we like airbrush paint it, and the release agent that we use is all really, really important. And we only figure that out by it not working. There have been times where, you know, the carbon fiber bonded to something it wasn't supposed to bond to, and then we had to like pry it off. So yeah, it's the quality control comes from kind of failures, and it's all in the prep, I think.
Yeah, I think the failures are honestly just as important as the working product because it just teaches you what doesn't work and what not to do in the future. So, yeah, that's definitely super important. Jordan, so brakes are literally life or death for the driver. How do you guys test and validate your designs?
So for rotors, we have a lot of online softwares like ANSYS, and we test it for like heat, wear, durability, all that. All of the brakes and ergonomics members in the beginning of first semester, we had like this brake rotor competition. So all got to make our own rotors and test them, which was really cool. But I know that we are also working on a brake dyno, which is just another way to test rotors. It's very complicated. There's a lot of parts to it, but
Is that something you guys are building as a team?
yeah, so we are working off a previously built one currently right now. Trying to make it work with our rotors because I think it was built with Baja rotors in mind, I think.
Okay.
So, and then trying to make sure that we can actually collect the data and yeah, just putting everything together.
Nice. So, Michaela, you have a different kind of challenge. You're managing a huge team, trying to attract sponsors, recruit new members, and keep followers engaged all at once. So, what's been your biggest social media or branding challenge on the team, and how did you handle it?
I think kind of building it in a new fashion, our social media. So before, a lot of media was done by engineers, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how a lot of teams operate. But we are very lucky and very fortunate that we have a designated business and media team on our team. So kind of trying to find new perspectives, trying to use the knowledge us business kids learn in our classes to promote the team further is something that we've taken on.
Yeah, awesome. That's super important. I think just having perspectives outside of just the engineering field is definitely really important to social media success and business strategies. So for competition day, what is everyone's worst case scenario and how do you guys prepare for it?
I'd say I think Haley and I have been to comp. This past year, we didn't quite run. We switched from IC to EV, and we ran into some timeline issues. It's very hard to do the switch from IC to EV. So it took a little bit of more time than we we're kind of anticipating. We were a little bit hopeful and we didn't quite make it, but it was a huge learning opportunity to kind of be there at competition, to kind of introduce a lot of new leads and members to comp that hadn't been to comp. So worst case scenario, I guess, was probably not running, but it ended up being a fortunate learning opportunity for all of us.
Yeah.
Haley, I'm sure you could probably add a little bit more here.
Yes, I was honestly honored to be invited to comp this past summer. But yeah, it was a really good learning experience for me, not only just learning more about people on the team, but also learning about cars from different schools. I mean, we have the opportunity to go around and talk to all the different schools and kind of ask questions about their car. And then also there's a lot of companies that come there, so we're able to go around and talk to companies and potentially network and maybe get internships and connections.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think there's definitely the engineering community is very connected, I feel like. So networking is always a huge thing. But I guess kind of adding on to my last question, do you guys have any fun like traditions or rituals for competition day that your team has?
Um, I would say a tradition is we all stay together in a house for competition is like a week, rather not it's not really one day, it's more like a whole week. So we rent out this huge house for a week and it's like we just all stay together and just yeah. I would say that and also I remember every night we have like a meeting either to debrief the day and then kind of plan for the next day.
Yeah, that sounds super fun. But competition is one thing, but I know you guys are always constantly innovating and improving. So what's one innovation or improvement that each of your sub teams are working on this year that you guys are excited about?
I am really excited. This year we made the PCB box. It goes on the back of the steering wheel to hold the wires and stuff for the buttons and the dials that are on the steering wheel. This year we made it out of carbon fiber and I was like I took the lead on that project and it was definitely my favorite thing that I've done. I got to work with not only like CAD and online software, but I also got to, sand it, which sanding carbon fiber was a pain. But I got to sand it and I got to paint it, which was really cool. And it looks amazing. Like it's genuine. I'm so proud of it. Yeah. And in previous years, it was made out of steel, I think. And yeah, but that's one innovation that Brakes and Ergonomics has done this year.
So definitely on chassis, kind of a small innovation, but still one is obviously the headrest. It's changing. It's a pretty small piece of the car, but it's still changing a lot from what it looked like last year. So I'm really excited to be able to design that and then look at the car at the end of the year and be like, I did that part. And yeah, something I guess that's bigger and really on the main chassis is we're using a different release agent this year. An issue that we had last year was with our mold. Our plugs, they're made out of tooling board, which is like a very dense styrofoam. And there's different densities. And with a lower density tooling board, it's more porous. So when we did our layup of the mold, the carbon fiber actually kind of molded itself into that more porous material, and we actually broke the puck when we were trying to take it off. So we had to do a lot of repair to that this year, and we're also using a different release agent. Um, and that I know my team lead Luke learned about from talking to other teams. So yeah, we've used it on just little test pieces, and it's worked really well. And we get a really nice shiny finish on the back of it, which will then translate to the outside of the car. So I'm really excited to see how it'll turn out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for the headrest, I think it's, every single aspect of it makes a difference on the car. So I think that's really cool that you're working on that. But yeah, so as Formula SAE teams push toward more electric vehicles, what new challenges are emerging on the electronics front of your team?
I would say a challenge that we're facing is, like Michaela was saying, In the past, we were IC or internal combustion. So the electronics team was more of a support team. But I feel like now that we're full electric vehicle, it's mainly electronic. So we're kind of just learning how to like have all these responsibilities and learning how to work with all of these other sub teams and that. But then also, I would say safety is a big challenge because I mean, electricity, like, it's so dangerous. Our battery pack is, like, 600 volts. So
Oh,
just
wow.
learning how, I guess, train and teach ourselves, but then also we have to teach all these other members so that they're safe and so that they're aware and they know the risk that comes with working with electric vehicles.
Yeah, I think electric vehicles just in general is such like an emerging field still. There's so much we still don't know about them. So I think that's really cool that you guys are able to turn like your motorsports vehicle into an electric vehicle as well. That's awesome. So looking a little bit more at the bigger picture, how has Formula Buckeyes shaped your career goals? Are you guys still on the path that you thought you would be in when you joined, or have you guys shifted in what you want to focus on at all?
Definitely still on the path I want to be on. Coming to college, I kind of knew I was more interested in like the human factors behind engineering and like how humans interact with their environments. So I'm really glad that I got to work on the ergonomic sub team. I think it definitely like reinforced my passion for this and made me really excited to just like do more and learn more and be more involved and kind of like just take lead on more things and like actually advocate for like a better ergonomic solution to stuff. So I think that's made me really excited to like kind of get out into the workforce, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that you kind of knew you had this interest and you were able to reinforce it with a specific sub team on the formula team that you enjoyed.
I'd say
I would
Formula
say
Go ahead, Haley.
Sorry. Okay. I would say that I definitely didn't think I would be on the path that I'm on right now. Like, if you were to tell me a year ago today that I was an electronics lead, I would be like, what? Like, are you serious? So, yeah, I definitely just can't believe I still am given this opportunity. And I feel like this team has given me a lot of hands-on experience. And yeah, not only with technical skills that I'm learning, but also like soft skills. And like I said, a lot just being able to teach other people. And yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'd say Formula Buckeyes completely changed my career trajectory. Going into college, I knew I wanted marketing and I knew I liked live sports and music and entertainment, but wasn't really sure where. And then when I found Formula Buckeyes, I fell headfirst into motorsports and currently interning with IndyCar. So it's definitely something that
Awesome.
I have pursued and wanting to pursue long term.
Amazing. So where do you kind of see like your sports media, motorsports content creation career heading? Would you want to work for a big company or where do you see yourself?
I would love to work for a series or a team, kind of more on the social media and PR communications aspect. I think being able to tell the story, not only behind the driver, but behind the team, getting to work with all these lovely ladies is just an incredible honor. So, getting to tell their stories and highlight them is something that I want to continue to do, whether it's in a series or behind a team.
Amazing.
Yeah, so for me, I remember being so excited that I loved coming to Formula. I loved doing this. I was just like, yeah, this is exactly what I hoped it would be, and I want to continue doing this. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely still on kind of track to I still have that same end goal to continue to work in motorsport. Something that is like kind of unexpected and new, but I think I've really found that I like teaching people. As second year on the team, I've already gone through a whole cycle of building a chassis. We don't build the chassis every single year, but because of some like design changes and stuff, we are building pretty much a full new one. Um, so there have been some meetings where I've taken on more of an instructional role, and I have found that I love doing that. And that has been really unexpected. I love answering questions and explaining things and teaching people how to do things, and it's really rewarding. So, yeah, that's been unexpected.
Yeah, that's really cool that you're able to find that. And I think it's always so nice to be able to kind of portray the things that you learned from others to new members as well. So that's awesome. And I'd like to ask you guys all something that I think a lot of students who are listening might find helpful. If you guys could go back and give your freshman year self or your high school self one piece of advice about either joining Formula SAE or just, kind of being in this engineering field, what would it be?
I think for me, it would definitely be to not measure success only off of my classes. In high school, I always did super, super well, and that was the standard that I held myself to. But then in college, you start taking these really, really hard classes that, yeah, they're just really, really hard. And sometimes I just felt really just like not confident in myself, not confident in my ability, but seeing how successful I could be in application and on a project team like this, I'm like, okay, grades are not everything. What is more important is, the ability to work in a team and to do all of this stuff in industry. And it's changed my perspective about how I view success. And yeah.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up because I think it's so easy to kind of get like tied into just being like, oh, if I don't get this grade in this class, like I must not be successful in this field. But I think it's a completely different skill set to be able to transfer that knowledge that you're learning into a real world environment and not just in a classroom. And I think that's equally important, if not more, than, just classes and success. But yeah, that's a really good point.
I think if I could tell like my school self something, I would just say to like not be scared to make your presence known and like don't be scared to ask for what you want or for like to actually just like do things. I think that was a really big thing when I came to college was I was just very scared that I like didn't have the authority to like be here. And I still do this. I still question whether or not I should be here, but I will say I think Formula has been amazing for me because every time that I really start to doubt myself, I feel like I can go there and be reinforced that I am in the right spot and that I do belong here and that I'm definitely qualified. So I would just tell her to go for it. Just put your all because it really makes a big difference to have a place that you can go to when you're not feeling 100%.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so easy to kind of like fall in that rabbit hole of self-doubt, but having that community like you have at Formula Buckeyes is so important. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, um, I would probably tell myself to stop comparing yourself to other people. I feel like I struggled with that a lot in high school and coming into college, and I still kind of struggle with that today. But just like, I remember I just used to be like, oh, like all these people are doing this, and like I'm not doing that, or I'm not getting those grades. And I just would doubt myself, kind of like what you were saying, Jordan. But just learning that everyone's path is different and you're gonna be okay, like it's gonna be okay. So,
Yeah, definitely.
I think adding on to Haley's is it's okay to take baby steps. It's okay to enjoy where you are in the moment and kind of experience all that moment has for you. You're doing what you're doing. It may take 100 no's to get a yes, but when you do find that yes, it'll be all well worth it and you'll get to the top and you'll be able to help new members and new females kind of get to where you are.
Yeah, I think it's so important to be able to like appreciate the little successes and like the baby steps, like you were saying. It's really easy to just get caught up in like the big milestone successes, but it's just equally important to have those little small ladders that you're climbing to actually get to that big milestone success and just recognizing that that one big milestone is not the only success that you have is just so incredibly important. But Yeah, so as we're coming up on the end here, I want to do like a quick rapid fire round. Just give me like your first thought answers, don't overthink. But what's your favorite motorsport to watch outside of Formula SAE?
F1. Does that count?
Yeah, I would say F1 as well.
I gotta go IndyCar.
I honestly don't really have one.
That's okay. Um, so what is one tool that you couldn't live without?
My camera.
Sandpaper. Ooh, that's a good one, Michaela. I feel like I do a lot of sanding. Probably
Yeah,
not
we
as
do a
much as
lot.
Gabby does.
Yeah, we do like an insane amount of sanding. We have to wear like these filter masks. So yeah, I would say sandpaper because that's essential for prep, but also like a squeegee. We have these little yellow squeegees and they're all over. They're just literally all over the shop, but we use them all the time. So
I would say probably wire strippers, always using those.
Yeah. Wait, Michaela, I think I missed what you said.
My camera,
Okay,
definitely.
yeah, definitely. If you could add an unlimited budget to one aspect of your car, what would it be and why?
I think I would want to get like a giant CNC cutting machine. When we actually go to cut out our plies for our chassis, we need so many of them. And last year we went to GE Aerospace and they had this CNC machine that had a little blade on it and it would go around and cut our pre-preg like extreme precision, but also extreme efficiency. So it would really puzzle piece everything in there to minimize waste. I wish we could have one of those because it takes so long to cut out pre-preg. We do it with a little blade and it hurts your fingers. So yeah, I would get one of those machines. They're probably like so expensive, but it would save us a lot of time.
I would say ergonomics. I feel like if somebody would give me unlimited money, I would love it. I think that um, ergonomics isn't 100% essential when in comparison to a lot of the other sub teams. Like, you can have a seat that is fine and the car will run, but if you don't have like a good chassis or, you know, and like the battery pack that actually runs the car, like you can't really do it. So I think that a lot of the times it's not really the main focus of a lot of things, which I understandably so. But yeah, if I had unlimited budget, I would put a lot of it towards ergonomics.
I would say, obviously so biased, but give it to the electronics, put it towards our battery pack. I feel like there's always a way to make it better, optimize it, but you need money for that. So
Yeah.
Probably divide it out to some of them, but definitely some camera equipment, some video equipment for our members, I think would be so cool. But definitely portion it out to some of them too.
Awesome. So, for the last couple of questions, Formula Buckeyes competes against universities from around the world. What do you want people to know about your team that is unique or not portrayed elsewhere?
I would say that our team is kind of different than some other teams just because we don't do applications for our team. So we're always willing to teach anyone and just, I guess, saying that anyone can learn these skills.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think people can sometimes feel discouraged when it's like an application process because they're like, "Oh, what if all those other people who are applying are more qualified than me?" And it can like scare people to enter a space that they might have an interest in. So I think that's really awesome that you guys are teaching everyone and welcoming everyone onto your team. So, what is one thing about being a woman in Formula SAE that you want other young women to know?
I would say like to not be discouraged by being the only one there. I think that to get women into a space like that, you need women to be the first ones. So, at our school, we actually have a lot more women on our team than, yeah, really other schools might. So, yeah, the girls who are going into college and thinking about joining SAE at a school that, is smaller, might not have as many women as our team does, to still do it because your presence will be noticed by people the next year and it'll just make it that much more comfortable to see another girl on the team. So I think that would be my advice.
I agree. Adding on to that, Gabby, I just like I think it's very important to just go for it and push yourself to maybe be the only woman, because a lot of the times I think it adds a different perspective within teams. I think that also having people on the team, I remember on the club fair day, I went to the Buckeye stand and I actually talked to Haley. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember kind of walking up and nobody really approached me like I saw a bunch of the other people doing. Like I saw just like people interacting. And so I was like, okay, I'll approach myself. So I kind of found the first girl I saw and I really grilled her about a lot of things. But yeah, so I think it's so important to have like just more women. And like I remember like the moment that I saw Haley, I was like, wonderful. Like she looks like she knows what she's doing. She looks super confident. Like I'm gonna go talk to her. Like I wanna know her experience. I wanna know like everything. So
That's
Yeah, I
actually
think. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
okay. I was gonna say that's actually so funny that you bring that up because I was thinking about that like maybe 5 minutes ago. I was like, isn't Jordan like, I swear she came up to me at the table for the involvement fair, but I literally remember you asking me questions about like being like one of the only females on the team and like how that was for me and all of that.
Yeah, I really love what all of you guys kind of like said about being like that first step towards bringing more women into the field. I think, sometimes it can feel a little bit scary being like the only girl there. And you feel like your opinions might not be heard as much or they might be more overlooked. But I think being like that step towards bringing more women in just makes the next year, like Gabby, like you said, just brings in more people. You and they're like, "Oh, like I can do it too." And Jordan, like you said, being able to talk to Haley and seeing like her confidence and her knowledge in the team is really amazing. So yeah, I think those are all really great points. But yeah, so Haley, Gabby, Jordan, and Michaela, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your experience and your stories. What you're doing is absolutely incredible, and I think a lot of young women who are listening are going to hear this and just feel inspired to keep pursuing STEM and engineering, or maybe even join a new school organization one day. So for everyone listening, if you want to follow Formula Buckeyes' journey, you can find them on Instagram, TikTok, and on their website. So I'll link everything in the show notes so you guys can check that out. And if this episode resonated with you, please make sure to share it with someone you think will enjoy hearing it too. And be sure to let us know what you thought by leaving a review on your favorite streaming platform. So thank you guys so much for being here with me on the She Persists podcast. And I've really enjoyed getting to know you guys and just getting to hear all of your experiences.
thank you for
Yes,
having me.
Thank
thank
you for
you.
having us.
Once again, I'm your host, Emma Zareen, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the She Persists podcast.